welcome to the February 27th edition of a St. Charles County Council meeting. Always a good time. We will start tonight with our invocation, which is done by Reverend Brad Harris of Bible Baptist Church in St. Charles. Thank you very much for coming. And Councilman Joe Brazel will be leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd stand and remove your caps.
Let's pray together, may we? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you, as the Psalm says, you are mindful of us. You're interested in our lives. And I pray as these gather together this evening to make the decisions for our community, that they would be mindful of you. And I thank you for your common grace on all of us. And may we be grateful for how good you are to us. And I do thank you for those who serve and protect our community and respond to emergencies in our lives throughout this entire county. I pray you bless this meeting and be with each and every one who assists in making these decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Greenhammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody back from vacation, and everybody's healthy, so that's good. I'm excited to have a full dais tonight. We'll start off by a public presentation. Scott Drochnik has got some special guests that we're going to honor tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We thought they would blend in tonight with their orange T-shirts. We've got a special opportunity tonight to recognize two things. Number one, we're coming up on the 8th annual STEM Recognition Breakfast in St. Charles County, which has been going on since 2010. But we also wanted to honor a group that has been a part of STEM before STEM was even STEM in St. Charles County. And that is a group that started back in 2002, the River City Robots and the Channel Cats, Team 1094. With that said, I'm going to let Ralph Lambert, who is the last remaining founding member of the River City Robots and a retiree from Boeing, and with the technical instructor, technical folks helping with the group, to come up, speak for a few moments, and then we've got a proclamation and would like to take some pictures and honor them. So, Ralph Lambert from the River City Robots.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to thank the council for the proclamation that they're issuing to our organization tonight on behalf of the mentors and enthusiastic students on our teams over the years. We truly appreciate it. River City Robots, like Scott mentioned, was founded in 2002. We sponsor one high school-aged robotics team each year. We just finished building the robot for this year last week. And we'll be competing in a number of competitions coming up in March. You're invited to join in the competition on a week from Saturday at Chaffetz Arena down in St. Louis U. We'll be competing down there with 50-some other teams from around the country. The River City Robots not only sponsors and mentors the one high school-aged team, but we also sponsor through monetary support, mentoring, equipment donation to what's called the First Lego League teams. We do maybe 5 to 15 teams a year in some fashion. And there's usually up to 10 kids on each of those teams. So over the last 15 years, we've seen a lot of kids go through not only our high school aged team, but also all these Lego League teams as well. I think I'd like to thank Scott, too, for helping us find locations for our team. Since we are an independent team, independent of any school, we're always hunting for financial help and a place to work. Okay, we've worked in a number of locations, including the back of my pickup truck once in a while. But we'd like to thank all the businesses in the area who've trusted us to use their grant money wisely, and the companies that and institutions that have allowed us to use their facilities or a portion of their facilities for our shop area as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ralph, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll read the proclamation that's been put together. And one thing that Ralph mentioned to me and the other folks over time, right now in St. Charles County, there's probably about 100 or more robotics teams, everything from grade school up to high school. Almost most of them are connected to a specific school, but that has been the unique aspect of the River City Robots and the Channel Cats. They have been a county-wide group. So they have kids participating from a variety of schools, and that's where it's been interesting for them to find a location because they're not tied to a specific grade school, middle school, high school. So thank you for doing that countywide. With your permission, sir.
Yes, sir.
Whereas by decree, the governor and the General Council Assembly of 2010, the first week of every March is set apart in Missouri as Math, Engineering, Technology, and Science Week, most commonly referred to as STEM Week. And whereas St. Charles County government encourages more school curriculum, student participation, and career pursuits in STEM fields, and greater community awareness of the importance of STEM to the vitality of the county and our state. And whereas one of the highlights of Missouri STEM Week in St. Charles County is the annual STEM Celebration Breakfast hosted by the EDC Business and Community Partners, and whereas the 7th Annual STEM Celebration Breakfast will be held on Friday, March 3rd, 2017, to honor one high school student excelling in STEM studies from each of the public and private high schools in St. Charles County, and whereas two of the local organizations that have been successfully engaging students from ages 6 to 18 in the exciting and hands-on STEM activity of robotics teams and competitions are the River City Robots and Channel Cats Team 1094, and whereas the River City Robots is a multi-team, nonprofit organization started in 2002 to serve all of St. Charles County, and the Channel Cats is its core FIRST robotics competition team. And whereas thanks to the hardworking students, dedicated adult volunteers, and generous community sponsors, the River City Robots and Channel Cats Team 1094 have participated in regional and national championship competitions and garnered numerous awards over the years. And whereas local STEM efforts are having an enormously positive impact on school curriculum, student achievement, career pursuits, the community's entrepreneurial infrastructure, and the future workforce and business leaders of St. Charles County, now therefore be it proclaimed that Steve Ellman, County Executive of St. Charles County, Missouri, urges all educational institutions, businesses, governments, community groups, families, students, and citizens of all ages to join in recognizing the River City Robots, the Channel Cats Team 1094 for their successful STEM efforts, and hereby encourages all to support and take part in Missouri STEM Week 2017 and the 7th Annual STEM Celebration Breakfast on March 3rd, 2017 in St. Charles County, Missouri.
Excellent. Get everybody gathered in here, get a nice photo. Slide in tight. Everybody got it? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Ralph. Thanks for
We'll move on to public comments at this point. Once a subject is broached, we will take 3 speakers on either side. Every speaker has 3 minutes. You'll hear the buzzer go off. At that point, I'll ask you to have a seat and wrap up your remarks. So we'll start with our first speaker, and that would be?
We have one speaker, and it's Arnie Dinoff.
Ah, Mr. Dinoff, you are solo performance tonight. Thank you guys again for coming.
Are you ready?
By all means.
Thank you very much, members of the County Council. Arnie A.C. Dinoff, Public Advocate and County resident, always working to make our county and our state a better place to live, raise a family, and to create the best community that we possibly can. I have made within the last 10 days 2 public information requests in reference to the county executive, in reference to his fuel usage, because there are some questions of how he uses the fuel, how he uses his expense accounts, travel, his county vehicle, and other perks and benefits that the public does not know that the county executive absorbs from county taxpayers. Mr. Robert Schnarr, the Director of Finance in the current county register, has failed to yield the information that I've asked. I ask for information from all governments in our county and our state, and I've never been put off for more than 10 days. I did receive a simple reply from Mr. Schnarr stating that he would get back to me when he felt it was needed or appropriate. But that's not what the Sunshine Law says in our Open Meeting Act, which is for full transparency and that the information shall be obtained within 72 hours. And if not, there needs to be a detailed letter of why that's not given to the person asking for the information. You know, if I get pushed in a corner, I think we're going to end up in circuit court quite a bit, because I'm going to make sure that we have full enforcement of Chapter 610 in this county, and that we have full disclosure and transparency of all of our information. I did not appreciate 2 weeks ago a certain councilman at the last meeting from rudely interrupting me when I was speaking the truth and true facts. I will always speak before this council in any government, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do not lie and am extremely ethical and always do my homework correctly to the T 100%. If Mr. Brazel feels that I don't, he can sue me in county circuit court for slander. On the consent agenda tonight, we are rarely shopping in SCC. On the consent agenda, we're buying 9 Chevy Tahoes from another county when they can be found and purchased right here in St. Charles County. I believe it's worth $297,000 that's going to pay for workers and to develop another county. We are buying 5 Dodge Chargers from O'Fallon right here in our backyard that we found that we could buy and create economic development. This is a ridiculous stance that the county has. In the fall, a jury said that this administration discriminated against former Department Director Rodney Zare. In November of 2016, a jury awarded Mr. Zare $297,000 plus $103,000 in attorney's fees. I'm asking this county council to pay Mr. Zare from the county self-insurance fund, allow Mr. Zare to live in peace and dignity, rather than, from what I understand, Mr. Ellman gave the county councilor authority
Thank you,
to
Mr.
appeal
Dinoff. Your
and tie
time
up
has
the
expired.
judgment.
Thanks for being here.
I'll be back at the next meeting with more
oral
facts.
report from the county executive. I understand we have a report on Gateway Greenlight tonight.
What now? Trevor, do you have the signal from the laptop? Right, Trevor, can you go back to the slide that's on the main computer?
Bless you.
There it is. Good evening, Council. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Gateway Greenlight program. We're also going to talk about smart cities and what does it mean to be a smart city. This presentation started from a question from Councilman Cronin last week, and he asked 2 very simple questions, and we're going to give him 2 long, complicated answers. So I apologize for that. So the first one is, why do we have a Gateway Greenlight program? And that was kind of basics of your question is, can we see, is there any quantitative data to show there's been improvement, and are we getting a benefit for the residents based upon the investment we're making? And so I'm going to step back and kind of answer that question on why do we have a program to start with and what really initiated the thought process. Fundamentally, St. Charles County, the reason why is that we have 340 traffic signals in the county. And those signals are managed by 10 different agencies. And so if you think about the majority of our traffic signals are really in the kind of the heart of the county, what was commonly known as kind of that golden triangle between 70, 40, 61, I-64, and 94. So they're compressed in a relatively small area, and if, just like anything else, when you have 10 people managing traffic flow, you're going to have problems. And so the Gateway Green Light program really stemmed by how can we learn to work together? That fundamental partnership of how can the state signals work well with the city of St. Peters? How can city of St. Peters signals be coordinated with the city of St. Charles? How can those signals be coordinated with the city of O'Fallon? That's the fundamental basis of the Gateway Green Light program, was that let's figure out how we can get all these people in the same room, share data, and make better decisions on how to coordinate our signals across jurisdictional lines. Because our residents don't just travel on state routes. They don't just travel on county routes. They travel the whole network. So that's fundamentally what started the project. The second piece was that, and I was very, when we did the citizen survey, we found out that 71% of the residents responded that congestion were on signalized roadways, either minor roadways or arterial roadways. And when we got the result back, I was kind of stunned by 71% noted that congestion, their perception of congestion, were on our signalized routes. I remember growing up as a kid that I-70, you sit in traffic in I-70 trying to cross the bridge. 64, you sat in traffic wanting to cross the bridge. Those are the type of concerns that my father brought up to me. You know, as I was growing up, you'd hear him as he worked downtown. I lost an hour of my day sitting in traffic. But now, our bridges, we've been able to build some big infrastructure like 364. Our problems that they're reporting to are our signalized systems. So that's why we have a Gateway Green Light program. Just again, want to emphasize what makes this program unique is the partnership. So there's other areas of the country that have managed centralized signal systems like the Gateway Green Light program. But what makes this unique is that it's a partnership between the state, MoDOT, the state being MoDOT, the county government, and the various cities. So it's geographically based versus agency based. So that partnership is fundamentally what makes this program unique and beneficial. Two questions. This kind of hits towards Councilman Cronin's specific was, why do I still get stuck in traffic? We got this great nifty system that we're managing and we're working, that works so well. Why do I still see congestion on the routes that I travel day to day? Simple answer to that is we have a lot of cars. St. Charles County continues to grow, continues to attract new businesses and new residents. We're always going to have congestion. This program is not set to eliminate congestion. It's there to make it better. And I'll hit in a few more quantitative details on that. The second is the Gateway Green Light program really making a difference? The simple answer on that is yes. We're seeing very good results so far. So quantitatively, what we've seen, the program was initiated in about 2012, so we've been monitoring it using travel time sensors. And what we're seeing is a 16% reduction in travel time. Now, 16% reduction in a few minute trips is seconds. So we're not saving hours of time. Collectively, we are. But we're saving seconds off of those individual trips to a grocery store, shops, or where you work. And that's considered actually pretty successful for this type of program. How do we know it's seconds? So we have a lot of sensors in the field, putting more in each day. The other area that the program's made some very significant progress in is special events. Last year in 2016, we had 35 special events. I broke that into two groups. One are planned events. This picture that you see is of the family arena. During the graduation, this is actually a picture during the Jehovah's Witness. You can see the bus there. One of the things that we've been looking at is how can we improve getting traffic in and out of the arena? And not only that, because of the jurisdictional basis, how can we get that traffic out of the arena and onto 364 or from 364 back on? Coordinating the state signals with the county signals, once again with city signals as well. We then have non-planned events. So of those 35, we had congestion where there was a major accident on one of our interstates. Now we're never going to be able to dump 4 lanes of interstate onto a Mexico road and expect Mexico road to do well. We're never going to be able to dump 4 lanes of interstate onto the outer road and expect the outer road and the signals to do well. But what we can do is set preset timing plan so that when something happens, we can switch it and make it better than what if we did nothing. And we've seen that very successfully over many incidences that have occurred on I-70. With that, Trevor, can you switch to the laptop? So this is just a look at the data. So what makes this, once again, unique is that we're seeing data from the MoDOT system, the state system, city system, as well as county signals. Cameras, we've deployed, we actually have deployed about 70 cameras new on the system, but we also have access to MoDOT's cameras. This is actually a camera on 364. That camera is used just to get some basic observation. As you think about, you can't be everywhere at one time, but you can have a camera and pull it up and be able to see how, if I change the signal timing, how does it affect the downstream signal? How does it affect the next one out? The red, the green dots on the map, those are showing that we have communication that signal. So if we needed to change the timing, we need to make an adjustment. Are we getting data from that signal? That's what the green dots are referring to. When we talked about how do we measure our performance, you can see if I hover over one of these time clocks, this particular clock is showing that, it's hard to read on here, that's 112 seconds between these 2 points, 102 seconds going the opposite direction. So when we look at the before and after performance of making a signal timing change, we get real data back telling us what that change is and how do we measure it. That's that 16% reduction that we're seeing in travel times by having a program and having it actively managed. Trevor, can you go back to the slides? So where are we at in the program? We're really at the foundation. We are at the ground level. What we've done over the last several years is we put in, we had to do a lot of exploring. Various cities had fiber optic cable. They had communications of their signals. We had to figure out what that was. How can we integrate together? We weren't building from scratch. We were rehabbing a house and figuring out how can we best utilize the infrastructure and the physical assets that were on the ground, tie it together so that it perform as a signal system. We have now 115 miles of fiber optic cable throughout the county, wiring these signals together, bringing them back into a centralized system that we're collecting data from. But what does that basically mean? We're at the ground level. We basically are getting to the point where we get the data back to us. Some of the next things we're working on is how do we share data between all the various agencies? How do we make better decisions based upon real traffic? We're trying to teach the cameras at the intersections how to count cars, not just whether a car is there or not, but how do you count them? If you know how many cars are traveling through a signalized intersection, you can make better signal timing adjustments for the next event. We're looking at preemption. There's a big push by emergency responders to reduce their response time. And one of the ways they can do that is by clearing an accident. So if you have cars blocked up at a signal, it's not talking about changing that signal. Once again, we're not talking about changing the signal from green or from red to green. We're talking about how we can clear the traffic ahead of an emergency vehicle. So we're looking at what we can do countywide, not just one fire district, not two, but countywide, what can we do? Average is about 25% increase, improvement in response times, reducing the crash rates. What's next? Beyond that, there's all kinds of crazy things out there that are being talked about in the nationwide. They're talking about vehicles being able to talk to the signals. What can a vehicle tell a signal? It can tell whether its wipers on. If its wipers are on, guess what? It's raining. It can tell me whether the car is at the temperature outside. Most cars have an ambient temperature gauge. If it's 32 degrees, great. If it goes down below 32, guess what? It's freezing. You need to get salt out there. That's occurring. So having that infrastructure and that communication is important. Vehicle to vehicle, cars are going to start talking to each other. We're not even talking about them driving. The next step is that, eventually they will drive themselves. The next step is they're going to talk to each other. Setting up and having our infrastructure able to hear that conversation and know how to respond is where we're heading. All of this leads to how can we use data better? How can we use our infrastructure in a way that makes sense and leverage it to get the most out of it? So answering where is Gateway Greenlight going? Gateway Greenlight's going towards a smart city movement. And that smart city movement is happening across the nation and across the world. This is providing the foundation to help us get there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
So John talked a lot about just focusing on vehicles and sensors and those vehicles and all of those devices that are communicating with one another and how that will be changing our technology in the transportation realm in the future. We're going to highlight a few more of those things, but then reach beyond just transportation. And so what we're really talking about is that Internet of Things. It's a buzzword I'm sure you've heard. It really just means all of those devices that you're carrying and all of those things in your home now and elsewhere, all of that technology and data and that integration of all of those devices in our life. And when we take that application and apply it to local government context, that kind of gives us that buzzword today of smart cities. It's really taking all of those things that can collect data, collecting that data, sharing that information, sharing that data, and then analyzing or crunching that data to make better decisions in the future. And so, talking about smart cities and beginning to plan for it here in St. Charles is important because it's not just coming, it's already here. Last, I think, October, Audi launched its first vehicle-to-infrastructure technology in Las Vegas, where if you had Audi vehicle, it's going to tell you when that signal that you're driving up to, what estimated time before it turns red, or how much longer that you have while it's green. They've already are doing that in cities around the world today and testing that infrastructure. Additional examples worldwide and things that can be applicable to us back here are autonomous vehicles in transit today, and how you're beginning to see BMW actually launch some autonomous buses in Amsterdam, and a lot of technology that can be utilized for parking lot management and avoiding congestion within downtown areas. Talk a little bit later about an example that we could implement here locally. Why drive around downtown St. Charles looking for a parking spot? Your car should be able to tell you which lot has spots available, which lot's already congested, so that you don't make that drive down Boone Slick if there's not a parking spot down there in the first place. One of the things I always think this is fun to highlight. So, things are happening quickly. They're not just 10 years in the making. Today you can go certain places in China and pull up and rent yourself an electric vehicle out of what I go ahead and call a car vending machine. Take that vehicle to wherever it is that you're going, and at that next vending machine, you drop the vehicle back off. So all of this technology and all of these things going on within this space are going to be affecting how we all live in different ways, probably depending on the size or scale of your city or the place that you live. But this stuff is here, and it's not just something of the future. Real quickly, if you wanted to learn a lot more, check out what's going on in Amsterdam, Barcelona, and Dubai in particular, some jurisdictions around the world who've put millions of dollars into infrastructure to enable themselves to do some very smart city-style applications. But even here locally, the city of Kansas City applied for the U.S. DOT Smart City Challenge. That was awarded, that grant award of $40 million was awarded to one jurisdiction late last year, and it went to Columbus, Ohio. But Kansas City was one of the finalists and applicants, and that process in and of itself led them to develop some planned smart city type applications and brought in a lot of private investment, public-private partnerships to implement some of the things that were in their desired plan, which included interactive kiosks along the downtown Main Street route, which is kind of lines up with their trolley project. Free public Wi-Fi access within that same corridor, smart LED street lighting that's really only staying at full brightness when there's activity within the area, or otherwise being able to dim on its own when it's not sensing that activity. And using all of those sensors within that area and that infrastructure of streetlights, et cetera, to be able to help pass information back and make signalized changes, coordinated changes about how people flow through the area. Columbus, if you want to have an opportunity to talk more about Columbus, John and I both would be happy to share what Columbus, Ohio is doing. They have $40 million from the U.S. Department of Transportation to implement a wide range of transportation, primarily related activities within their community, including things like that would be very impactful in the state of Missouri along the I-70 corridor, like truck platooning and delivery zone availability, smart mobility hubs and street lighting. Again, all of these things to make transportation more effective, more efficient going forward. And so I will mention, because it is always something that we think about and should be concerned about, is that we jump into these things and we need to do so with some level of caution. Just like we talked about our radio system several years back, of when we all had disparate radio systems in St. Charles County, none of our equipment could talk to one another. If we had different brands of radios, we couldn't talk. If we were on different megahertz frequencies, we couldn't talk. There's that same lack of interoperability standards within this marketplace in the Internet of Things. Just like if you go shopping at, I think Lowe's sells Nest, I'm not sure if Home Depot does, but you go in and you look at Nest sensors, it says right there on the package that we only work with Google Home products or another. It's not something that is completely and always an open platform where any type of hardware device that you buy is going to automatically integrate with any type of software platform. So that's something to be cognizant of as we start moving into these systems, of making sure that we're purchasing that's going to be something that's future-proofed, that when the next software platform comes along, the device we've purchased can already communicate with that system. Second piece is always going to be data security. You may recall back in October of last year, there was a day, I think it was a Friday, it was October 22nd, where access to a very, very large number of websites worldwide was down. And it was because hackers were able to utilize all of those wirelessly connected devices in your home, like that thermostat you just saw, like your Wi-Fi connected baby monitor that lets you look on your iPhone during the day at that baby monitor back at home. All of those devices are hackable. And when you use those devices, you can otherwise direct an attack to be able to bring certain pieces of the internet essentially down. So thinking about security as an aspect of this is obviously going to be important. And as more and more of those standards are developed federally, that will be something that we'll want to make sure and keep up on. We've been getting smarter. John wants to make sure that we're always highlighting that this isn't something that's totally brand new to us. We have been working in some key areas that are really smart city style applications today, including Citizen Serve that you all know about, but some further GIS integration that we're doing with that system. And then the potential of sharing that data with municipalities so that eventually builders in this county potentially had one type of software platform that they come to for all of their building permits, as opposed to having to know multiple different systems from everybody countywide. We also hired our first data analyst in the IS department. It's been on board with us for almost a year now, I believe, and helping do some great things to identify how we can share data and utilize that data for decision making. So quickly, I'll mention the city of St. Charles and the county last month had gone out at the end of December and tried to pursue a Smart Cities Challenge grant that would allow us to have some access to programming and some vendors who would be able to help us develop plans for smart cities. St. Charles led that application and it focused primarily in the areas of transportation, public safety, and health and human services. And that transportation aspect kind of focused on some of those things that Kansas City has done related to smart parking applications, trolley location apps on your phone. And then on the public safety side, it was really focused on data sharing. How do we make sure that crime data is being properly shared across all of our jurisdictions? And how can we utilize kiosks like the city of Kansas City did to help provide better access to resources within the downtown district? They're also pursuing, outside of that grant application, which we weren't successful at, but it's starting some conversations. They're also going to be utilizing the GGL infrastructure and those fibers that we have installed as part of that project, and have leveraged that for some federal funding, and will be implementing a $1.6 million project and installing 15 additional miles of conduit and fiber within the city of St. Charles. They'll own that fiber and they will maintain it, but they're going to be leasing it back to the school district at a rate of just $1 per month. Which will save the city school district over $200,000 annually. And they're moving forward on that now and speaking with the other districts in the county about how this type of project might be able to be expanded. So I think that is indeed the end of information we wanted to share with you tonight. If you have other questions, we're happy to talk about the topic for hours on end. So let us know what other information we can provide you at any time going forward.
Mr. Cronin?
I just have a couple different questions, I guess several, and address them briefly. Do we have some redundancy in this system in case these computer systems go down? Is there a signal that can be sent out so they operate in a time manner? And what I'm getting at is I've seen where the MoDOT signs, the traffic signs have already been hacked. I drove by one, somebody had a smile, somebody got on that sign and got in the system. If somebody did hack this system, or say we have an electromagnetic pulse that knocks out computer systems, can that system go back to the functionality of the old-fashioned time system? Okay?
Yeah, on traffic signals, the intelligence, you can have them centralized, communicated. You can have the intelligence that we have in place. But due to the way that security systems are actually performed, they default to the intelligence in the street. So should they get hacked, should we lose fiber connection, should we lose communication to a signal, ultimately it'll defer back to the defaults within that computer that's right there in the street at the signal.
Okay. But if the computer, everything's reliant on computers then? You don't have the old-fashioned timers or motion sensors or any of that stuff in this new system?
No, so let me correct that. So you have the centralized computer, but if for some reason all of that went away, the equipment in the street is smart enough to run the signal to make sure that it goes red, yellow, green. That's in the fundamental core programming that's in the street. So if the world came to an end, as long as there's power to that signal, it will function, not coordinated, not as efficiently as it can, but the fundamental safety of red, yellow, green will occur based
Okay.
upon the street infrastructure.
And then most of this, the work that we've spent thus far, it's been co-op, mostly federal, like probably 80 or 90% of the money? Okay, is that a fair statement?
80% has been federal grants. We're providing a 20% match.
And about how much do you think we've spent thus far? And about how much do you think we're going to be spending before we get to completion, or approximate completion?
So we have 5 phases. Those 5 phases have cost $10 million total. $8 million of that through the feds, $2 million in county funds.
Okay.
To get the system to where we are today. As we move forward, the future is unlimited on how we can maximize this system to move us towards a smart city platform. So we will continue to look for those opportunities to secure federal funds, and so that we get the best value as we move forward in technology in the future.
Okay. And we really don't care about how Audis and BMWs operate in this county, because people buy Chevys from district that are made in District 1 in this county, okay?
Anybody else have any questions?
I had to plug the plant. Chief, I saw you in. How's this working for you guys?
It's going to work great for us. John forgot to give himself a pat on the back. He met with the chiefs about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and talked about that. This will help us, especially emergency management, a lot. If you remember the last big flash flooding we had above Highway C and mid-rivers and stuff, we had cars going everywhere and nobody knew where to go, traffic on top of each other. We will all be able to coordinate and direct the citizens and move people through the towns who don't know where they're at, keep them moving on a flow such as Highway Hay, when they shut down 70, which will happen again because of Darden Creek. So we're really excited about being able to coordinate and all work together, because that was, you can recall, that was just a nightmare for us last time.
Sure.
So all the police chiefs are very excited about coming on board with this, and again, another big cooperation thing for all of us to do. So we like it. It's a good project.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good deal considering we got 20 cents on the dollar in it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda tonight?
Motion to approve.
No, we got.
Mr. Brazel.
I'd like to remove Route Z intersection, Forstow Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So highway has been removed. Any other?
Yes, I'd like to discuss the Chevrolet bid, please.
So we'll remove the fleet management portion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So highway and fleet management are off of there. Anything else?
On the construction management of the snow guards, when do we bring that back on the table? Is this now, or do we?
We'll do that after we deal with this particular portion.
Okay.
One headache at a time here, all right? Don't get ahead of
Motion
me.
for approval on the balance.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the consent agenda is approved. Let's go with highway first. Mr. Brazel.
On this one, on Forstow Road, Highway Z is a great project, very excited about it. But Craig, on Krupp Construction, we had a lot of complaints from them on a project that we're done on N and T in that area, like was it maybe a year ago or something, with leaving concrete debris in the ditches and not grading out people's gravel yards and things like that. Do you remember that?
That would have been a state project, so we weren't
It
involved.
was a state project, but do we do any kind of, any coordination or supervision? But do you remember the complaints on that?
No, we didn't receive those because it wasn't our jurisdiction, so they went straight to MoDOT.
John, do you remember that? Refuse?
I don't recall the details of them. I remember there was an incident, but I don't recall any specifics.
I guess what I'd like to do is, I called them at the time, because I was getting a lot of calls from the people who living over there, and they didn't return any of my phone calls. And so Donna, do you remember any of that? Do you have any record of that in a file or anything?
Not
from
off
this?
the top of my head, I'd have to research it.
So I just thought, well, you know, there'll be another time when they come up for another construction project, and there needs to be a conversation. So I talked to John about this, and what I'd like to do is, do you have an opinion, or do you?
Well, there's two ways, there's ways to control the quality of a construction project. Number one is having good bid documents, and number two is having good project oversight. I'm not familiar with the MoDOT project. I don't know what their inspection was like, but we ride pretty hard on our contractors. We have daily inspectors out there. We control the checkbook. If they're not doing what we say, they don't get paid. And that's the way you control it. I don't know, you know, again, I'm not familiar with the MoDOT situation, so I can't address that. But I can assure you that if these people are doing things like you've described, that's not meeting our satisfaction, they won't get paid until they do. And it's, you know, that's the hammer that we have.
No, that's good. Okay. I mean, if you're comfortable,
We've had projects with Krupp in the past. We've never had, you know, any lingering incidents or anything that we felt, you know, they weren't complying with what we wanted them to do. So I'm comfortable that, you know, we can get them to do the job that they're hired to do.
okay.
Mr. Brazel, do you want to make a motion on that highway?
Yeah, I can make a motion to put it back on the consent agenda for approval.
Do I have a second?
Just to approve it?
Just to approve it, yes.
Same.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So highway is approved. We'll move on to fleet management. Mr. Cronin.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, and I don't want to hold this up because I know the police department needs their new vehicles, but I still think we have a problem when we have 3 Chevy dealers in this county and probably a dozen in the St. Louis metro area, and we get 1 bid, okay? There's something wrong. We got 3 bids, I think, on the Dodges, okay? But
Well-
with all the Chevy dealers in the St. Louis area, we get 1 bid, Bob? Something's going on.
There's a couple factors here. We are at the end of the model year, for one. Selection is relatively depleted at this point in time. Don Brown Chevrolet is the dealership in Missouri that has the state contract. And essentially, we reached out to the folks that you see on this list specifically, called them, and they're not available. It's not that they didn't bid. I mean, that's somewhat of a misnomer when you read this. They were contacted, but they have no vehicles for us to buy. So we can go without. We can wait till the 2018s come out in the
No,
fall.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
But what I saw in the bid docs, it said no response.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, and that's a misnomer because, you know, obviously, we're aware that it's a preference to buy locally if we can and if it makes sense for the taxpayers of this county. But in this case here, it just was not available.
And my concerns isn't just with buy local, it's concerns when we're spending 300 grand with a single bidder, okay?
Sure.
And especially on a common product like a Chevy Tahoe. Same way, same thing, we had the carpeting some time back. Carpet squares, I mean, they're pretty generic. They can buy them in a home improvement store and we get 1 bidder. There's got to be an inherent underlying reason why some people are reluctant to bid to the county, okay? I think I know a little bit about that from my own business, but I think we ought to explore that maybe down the road in a work session, okay? But I don't want to
Well-
hold this up. These guys need their vehicles, okay?
When you're faced with a situation where local vendors have to compete against a dealership that has the state contract, your local vendors are going to deal at a disadvantage.
But that wasn't
that's
the
just
case.
inherent to the system.
That wasn't the case with the Dodges. We got, I mean.
No,
yeah.
but I don't think that, the local, you know what?
No, the Dodges went to a dealership in O'Fallon, but we did
Right.
get 3 bids.
Correct, we did. And I can check for you to see, but I seem to recall that Lou Fuse Chrysler was the state bid awardee for those vehicles.
All right, thank you.
I can confirm on that. But the state bid is awfully hard to compete against with anyone.
Bob, when you say state bid, are you talking about like TCPN contract with co-op? Is it TCPN? Is that what it is?
It's not through TCPN, it's through the state. It's the state buy list.
What is it?
It's the state, the state preferred vendor list where dealerships.
Is it a co-op or what is it?
Well, it's a co-op through the state.
I know, but what's it called?
It's the state,
It's like a GSA, but it's a state?
it's the state version of GSA, yeah.
Okay, all right.
The actual, just to clarification, the Chrysler bids were very close.
Right.
I mean, the spread between Lou Fuse and the guy in Independence or Jeff City is $50-$60, if that, okay?
Right.
So, I mean, I just, even if there is an advantage being the Chrysler, state, agency, you don't see it reflected in the bids. I just think it looks bad for any bid we get that we only have one response.
Well, just let me clarify.
Yeah.
Bob, just to help you out a little bit, when they do a state contract, it is bid. Every 2 years, it goes out to bid to the state,
Right.
and all these vendors bid on it, so it is bid. So it's not accurate to say it's not bid, it is bid. And so that's how the state contracts are awarded. And co-ops, a lot of government agencies are going to a co-op because it saves time and money in the efforts of putting it out on the market, and it's like best in class and all that other stuff, so they do work. So I have no problem with co-op purchases, so if that's what it is.
But is that price we're paying, which is like 31, 32 grand a vehicle, is that what the state bid price was, It was. Okay.
Right.
If it's a awarded contractor that got the state contract, then that's what it is. I mean,
That's the price,
they can't
correct.
veer off that. They have
Correct.
to sell it for the state.
And that's what
contract.
this is?
That is what this is, yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions or comments? Could I entertain a motion on the fleet management?
I'll
put it
make
back
a
on the
motion
table?
to approve the fleet management request for or I guess for the Chevrolets.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the fleet management is back on. Mr. Brazel, did you want to make a motion about the construction management on the item that was removed from the consent agenda on the 13th?
I'd like to make a motion for approval in conversation. Yes.
So I have a motion to put this back on the table from you?
Yes.
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Hammond. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so this motion is back on the table. So you have a motion to approve this?
Yeah, approve it. I talked to Corey about it. I had some concerns about just the whole, how they're connecting and everything else, and future roof replacement and stuff like that. And we talked about it, and then I talked to Joanne about the necessary risk, what's involved with these, why is it needed, et cetera. And in most cases, anytime you have a roof with that kind of slope, they do have ice guards on them. It's in areas also where ice could slide off the roof and hit somebody, it could kill them. And so I think it might be a code now, isn't it, Corey, that you gotta have ice guards on these kind of buildings? Is Corey out there still?
I don't know about the 2015 code, I'd have to ask Jared.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
it is.
I think it is. So it's probably what we need to do, just for a liability standpoint, and for saving our lower roofs and our HVAC equipment on the lower roof. So I think it's the right thing to do.
So just to be official, could I have a motion to approve this item?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And this one is passed. We'll move on to bills for final passage, starting with Bill 4440.
Bill number 4440, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 16-18.
Any questions or comments on 4440? Seeing none.
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 16-18. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Bill number 4440 is passed. We move on to Bill 4441.
Bill number 4441, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 16-19.
Any questions or comments on 4441?
Just if you guys remember the conversations we had last week, Adam Stevener, the property owner and part of the family plots, they did a covenant, a deed restriction that all parties signed, and so it keeps us out of it pretty much, and they'll just submit it to the recorder of deed, and then they're good to go. So we don't have to do anything, just pass it.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none.
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 16-19. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Bill number 4441 passes on to Bill 4442.
Bill number 4442, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or designee to join the Eastern Missouri Pavement Consortium to be comprised of governmental entities sharing a common interest in quality materials and construction used in public infrastructure projects, and to enter into an agreement describing the purposes, procedures, and operation of such consortium.
Excuse me, any questions, comments? Mr. Cronin?
I talked to one of the O'Fallon aldermen that I deal with a lot, and also their highway engineer, and they're really excited about this. This has a lot of potential to help everybody in the county, and mainly making sure that the concrete is good enough quality that lasts longer than what the current concrete is. So it's a real positive thing that we're entering into, and I think the county's going to benefit as well as the cities that belong to that consortium.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive or designee to join the Eastern Missouri Pavement Consortium to be comprised of governmental entities sharing a common interest in quality materials and construction used in public infrastructure projects, and to enter into an agreement describing the purposes, procedures, and operation of such consortium. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Bill number 4442 passes on to Bill 4443.
Bill number 4443, an ordinance approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Weldon Spring for the Independence Road Phase 3.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none?
An ordinance approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Weldon Spring for the Independence Road Phase 3. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill number 4443 passes on to Bill 4444.
Bill number 4444, an ordinance approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Weldon Spring for the Independence Road Phase 4.
Any questions or comments on this bill? Seeing none?
An ordinance approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Weldon Spring for the Independence Road Phase 4. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes. Bill 4444 passes on to Bill 4445.
Bill number 4445, an ordinance amending Section 250.500 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO relating to county park regulations.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Brazel?
Betty, I got a couple questions for you. On the, on page 3, number 4, it says that there's a damage deposit not to exceed $5,000. Is that kind of excessive, or?
Well, actually, that was in something that you all approved some time back. That only deals that if there's a major spatial event that might be held in one of the park areas,
Like
a
what,
large...
What defines that, though? It doesn't say. It just says up to $5,000, so technically you could charge damage deposit for any event up to $5,000.
Well, I think you have to look at some element of reason being applied. If it's a small race event, for example, we have lots of those that come into the parks on the weekends. That's not charged. But if we would have something similar, I would say, to the county fair coming in, it very well could be charged if it's that much. It totally would depend on the scope of that special event.
And then it says on the next page that administration fees up to $25,000. What's that?
Well, again, Councilman, that was all part of the special event aspect. These were approved some time back. At the last time, I believe we had ordinance changes proposed. The only thing we were proposing changing this time was the addition of the hunting simulator rental fees and changing the Klondike facility name from conference center to a meeting facility, just because conference center typically was evoking questions of, well, will it hold several hundred people? And it wouldn't do that. So those were the only two changes.
Okay, and the other thing is on page 4, agricultural leases. Is that for hayfields and stuff like that?
Pardon me?
Is that including when we rent out the hay?
Yes,
Like
it would be
hayfield?
hay or crop, yes.
Okay. I have a real problem with this one, and I'll tell you why. I think I talked to John about this, and I apologize. I do apologize for not talking to you sooner about this, because I know this is in the 9th inning, but a lot of the farmers don't like this because they're gonna just, if they can bid against a hayfield for 1 year, they're gonna deplete the resources and put no investment in the fertilizers because they may not get it the following year. And this is a really bad practice, because if you talk to the farmers, they're not going to, if the lease was longer, they would take care of the field more and they would put fertilizers in it so it has a better outcome next year. But with a 1-year lease, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get anybody putting any investment into the ground, into the soil. And so that's not a good plan. And the farmers have been telling me that, and I thought we had this conversation. I had, I think, with John or somebody, I can't remember.
Well, what we have in there is for renewals up to 3 years, which addresses if someone wants to farm something. When we actually do those agreements, there's 1-year additions up to the 3 total that either party then can back out of if they wish. But again, that was,
It says cannot exceed 1 year for each side.
Can I jump in for just a second? Being chair, I guess that is yes. So here's the question that I have. What we have on the table tonight, we are just looking at amending this particular section. So with all due respect, some of the things that are being brought up, even if we voted this down, those things would still be in place. Am I correct?
correct. There's only 2 changes that are
Right.
being proposed. The
So,
hunting simulator.
I see what you're saying. I understand. I was hoping though possibly that, can we table this and have a conversation about some of these other items? Because some of this stuff gets passed, either I don't know, wasn't paying attention, I wasn't
I wanted to
here.
bring it up as a future change
No,
with another
yeah.
ordinance.
Do I, Michael?
Bring it up as a future change, another ordinance that'll change that, those
Yeah.
items that you're talking about.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Cronin.
What we're talking about is already in ordinance.
Yeah, no,
All she's wanting to do is rent the hunting simulator out, and we're
Thank you.
fine. The other thing is, I trust Betty's, she has her discretion to charge. She can charge up to $25,000 for administration fee. That means she is. But if I say I want to have Woodstock 3 in a county park, you're probably going to charge me $25,000. So, I mean, what I'm getting at, but the point I'm trying to drive is you have the discretion, and that's your high limit. You can charge whatever you think that you need to be reasonable to get that particular venue. So,
And if I could just add, if indeed it was Woodstock 3 that was coming,
Yeah.
you all would be presented with a very lengthy contract agreement that would be with a group like
Okay.
that. It's just that the ordinance is in place that would allow you all to approve a charge that high.
and the farming contracts also apply to some of the vacant farmlands like Heckman, okay?
Correct.
And for those ones, we don't know for sure how quickly we want to develop that, so it may not make sense to have a long-term contract for properties like that.
Correct.
So I get it, so.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Betty, for your time.
Thank you.
Seeing none.
An ordinance amending Section 250.500 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO relating to county park regulations. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes,
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Bill number 4445 passes on to bill number 4446.
Bill number 4446, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement with the St. Charles County Economic Development Council, DBA, EDC Business and Community Partners, for the EDC to provide $55,000 of services for marketing, training, and education and technical assistance to businesses seeking financing from financial institutions.
Any questions or comments on bill 4446? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement with the St. Charles County Economic Development Council, DBA EDC Business and Community Partners for the EDC to provide $55,000 of services for marketing, training, and education and technical assistance to businesses seeking financing from financial institutions. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Bill number 4446 passes. That is the end of bills for final passage. We'll move on to bills for introduction with Bill 4447.
Bill number 4447, requested by Joe Brazel, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance repealing Ordinance 16-100, which required any bill that had been substantially amended after its introduction and prior to its final passage to be placed on the next regularly scheduled council meeting agenda. Whereas the St. Charles County Charter, Article 2, Section 2.602, 2014, provides that a bill which has been introduced may be amended after introduction and prior to its final passage, but any amendment must be germane to the original purpose of the bill. And whereas the County Council passed Ordinance 16-100 to ensure that the council had adequate time to deliberate upon substantial amendments to legislation. And whereas the current Ordinance 16-100 provides no provision for the rule to be set aside for some mandated necessity or in certain time-sensitive situations, although a need exists. And whereas it is desirable to repeal Ordinance 16-100 so as to accommodate those situations in which there is a mandated necessity or time-sensitive need. Now therefore be it ordained by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, Ordinance 16-100 is hereby repealed. Section 2, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage and approval.
Any questions or comments?
I have some comments.
Mr. Brazel.
On this ordinance, the last ordinance we had last month, I kind of screwed up by voting no for it. And I talked to Mike Klinghammer about this, and so what I'm going to ask the council if we can, I'm going to make a motion if we can table it, and then I'm going to ask you if we can have a work session, because there's parts of his bill I do like, but there's parts of it I don't like. And so I understand what he was trying to do, but then it also interferes with people trying to do business, trying to get zoning issues done, get them moving forward, and that's what I don't like about it. So I think we can meet somewhere in the middle and try to accomplish what we're trying to do. So Mike has some ideas, so he suggested that we have a work session at the next meeting for maybe, I don't know, how much time, 15, whatever.
10, 15 minutes should take care of it.
Yeah, and then just before the next work session, and then just figure it out and make something work. So I'm going to ask if the council will table this, and maybe we'll redraft something else or whatever.
All right, Mr. Cronin, did you have something you wanted?
Yes, sir. I think that it's all, and the reason I voted against the original one is the charter says that anything we change has to be germane to the bill. And I think it's really a bunch of semantics, because germane is one thing and what Mike's got is I think, substantial change, okay? So I think we need to discuss that in the work session, like Mr. Brazel said. The other thing is I want to also say a lot of these last-minute changes tend to typically happen to conditional use permits and rezonings. And like in my district and Mr. Brazel's district, why that might be more important to us than some of you other guys that happen to live closer to here, is some of our people are driving 30 minutes to get here for a meeting. So if you make a last-minute change to a CUP and they got to come back 2 weeks, that's an imposition for a lot of people in my district. So I think a work session's a good way. Let's try to get our heads together and get something together that we can all live with, okay?
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, you certainly can table any bill you like, but since this isn't up for final passage tonight, you don't actually need to table it. You can certainly table it at the next meeting. When you,
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
because under,
I withdraw
the only
my
reason I
motion.
say that is under the current bill, if you make that amendment, you're going to lay it on the table after you've made the amendment anyway.
No, that's fine. I withdraw my motion then.
So the motion to table has been withdrawn. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to Bill 4448.
Bill number 4448, requested by Dave Todd, sponsored by Mike Elam, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute the memorandum of understanding between the County of St. Charles on behalf of the Police Department and the United States Marshal Service to authorize the Police Department to participate in the Violent Offender Task Force.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Brazel.
Chief, which one of you guys get the pleasure to explain this?
I'm the guy. When I'm done, I'll blame it on one of them. Okay, the U.S. Marshals contacted us. They had a violent They have a violent task force for violent criminals. They'd seen some of the work we've been doing with the fugitive units, and they had contacted us, wanted to know if we would be interested in participating in the violent task force. We sat down with Ms. Lycom in the U.S. Marshal's office because we had some questions. Because most task force, you pack up your people and you ship them away and you see them at the end of the 3 years. That doesn't work for us. We came to an understanding that works out very well for us. So 2 of the fugitive unit officers would be deputized. They will pick up their overtime and they will supply vehicles. And part of the plan, what they do meet each week and they bring packets for all the violent criminals, drug dealers that they're hunting that week. In the agreement, they will take some of our packets and help us hunt our bad guys besides just hunting St. Louis City, St. Louis County. Part of the agreement is they're going to help us hunt our bad guys on both sides of the bridge. The plus side for us, instead of just our couple people, we'll now be part of a, how big's the task force? 11 to 12 person task force. So that's more officer safety for working for us on both sides of the bridge. As we've discovered, as you're well aware, Mr. Brazel, when it gets hot from here, they run across the bridge down to the city. This will make it a lot easier for us to track them down because the marshals in St. Louis City and St. Louis County, they know the hideouts over there, so will help us find our bad guys there, as our people are familiar with the locations over here and help track them down, such as we had the drug dealer assassination a month or 2 ago. We assisted with that. Where we get deputized, so our officers have federal authority, and they'll also work out of RPD. So they were real clear, this has to be a win-win for us, and they sat down in this agreement after it was being modified with Ms. Lycom. Our people don't disappear. They come to us, they work with us, and we work with them. As you well aware, like we do the FBI task force, we do agreement, and then they're just gone for 3 years. This isn't going to work, and they agreed with it that doesn't work, that we're going to do it this way. So they'll meet each week with our people at our station, sometimes over in St. Louis City, and they'll take a packet from our guys also to go hunt bad guys wanted in St. Charles County.
How's the cooperation with the St. Louis City? Do they have their drug task force unit operational in coordination with the county, or not much?
St. Louis City, I don't know that St. Louis City has a drug task force. We work real well with St. Louis County's drug unit. I don't know that St. Louis City.
No, that's why I was asking. I think I knew the answer. They're not, they don't do too much with you. I mean, it seems odd to me, but I get it. I was just asking. So is St. Louis City, and they're involved in this task force?
Yes, they're violent officers.
But not their drug task force, which doesn't exist, is not involved with our drug task force.
This is a violent criminal task force.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, it's very good for us. It's St. Louis City guys, St. Louis County men and women, and will be 2 of our officers. So they will help us hunt down bad guys on both sides of the bridge. So it's win-win for us, plus they pick up the overtime and they supply the vehicles for 2 of our fugitive officers. So after we sat down and met with them and did a couple tweaking and stuff, this works well for us and for the citizens of St. Charles County. So we're not losing anyone, we're gaining 11 people on a part-time basis.
That's a good deal.
I believe it is, sir.
Any questions or comments about this? All right, Chief, thank you very much. We have no tabled bills, so any announcements or miscellaneous tonight? I will tell you a reminder that we do have a work session coming up on the 13th, which is our next meeting. It's tentatively scheduled for 6, but obviously if we're going to discuss Councilman Klinghammer's bill, maybe we'll move that up to 5:45. So as they say, stay tuned. Anything else?
The annual Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast is tomorrow.
Oh, that's right, tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, same group of guys, been doing it for ever and a day.
And where's that at?
It's at Memorial Hall in Blanchett Park.
Blanchett Park.
Till 7 p.m.
You'll be able to smell it when you get close.
Yeah. Follow your nose.
What are you saying, that I like pancakes?
I'm just going by what Megan said.
Hey, you're not wrong. Any other questions or comments?
Chairman, if you'd join us all in wishing Mr. Hazelwood happy birthday.
Yes. Happy birthday, Mr. Hazelwood. Fresh back from vacation as well. Correct. I would entertain a motion to dismiss. Motion. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are dismissed.